This video is about making a living as an artist. According to research by contemporaryartissue.com, there's somewhere between 15 to 30 million artists in the world. A 1 in 6 artists earns more than 25,000 US per annum. Well, where I live in New Zealand, the average artist's income, just from their art alone, is just under 20,000 New Zealand dollars, 19,500 per annum. And most artists are supplementing their art with a secondary job. I mean, I do that, I've got a day job. Certainly where I live, the starving artist syndrome is well and truly still happening. And in many parts of the world, amongst the millions of those who would like to make a living out of art, they're not making anywhere near as much as they'd like. So how can an artist make a living? Well, I'm going to say it starts with how much they can produce, their productivity. And productivity is not about how hard you work or how long you work. It only refers to how much you produce, right? So productivity refers to your output. So I'm a pastel painter, so my output is my pastel paintings. So how many of those can I produce per year? And then of how much I produce, how many can I sell? So that's a different story and a topic for another video. How do you make your art sellable? But first you've actually got to produce some. So let's ask the question. Are you ready? How many paintings could a painter paint if a painter could paint full time? How many paintings could a painter paint if a painter could paint full time? Didn't have to worry about part-time work. First we're going to talk about productivity. Now, I've got a little bit of credibility when talking about productivity because I spent 20 years in helping individuals and organisations increase their productivity, at times tripling the amount that they could do. While many managers try to get their staff to produce 6 hours of output a day, and you think, oh, 6 hours out of an 8-hour day, that doesn't seem, unreasonable. 6 hours a day is viewed as peak performance. I had a statistician who used to sit beside me on some projects, and he was like, you can never try and say that people can do 6 hours a day because they just can't sustain it. That's working absolute peak productivity. And of course, when managers try and get their staff to do that, they burn their staff out. So high performers, studies have shown that high performers are those who can consistently achieve 4 hours or more per day. Imagine that, 4 hours per day. You're employed to work for 8 hours, but you're only actually outputting 4 hours a day. The average worker, so, just the average you and me, their output, their productivity per day is just under 3 hours a day. Just 3 hours a day. So why only 3 hours a day? Why is that sort of our average focused output time? Well, a lot of it's down to distractions and interruptions. One study looked at office workers and said that the average office worker is interrupted every 12 minutes. Another study suggested every 3 minutes an office worker is interrupted. I guess it depends on where you are. In any case, studies also show that from the time we're focused on something and then we get interrupted, it takes us 23 minutes to refocus, to get back in the zone. So office workers really don't have a chance to produce anything, do they? Because they're constantly being interrupted. And if it's not just an interruption, like a chatty co-worker coming over or an instant message, and instant messaging was sold as productivity tool, but it's absolutely a distraction tool. And something like 40 minutes of the average person's day is spent on very low value, chatty sort of instant messaging. And each time they're getting a message, they're being interrupted and breaking their focus. So if it's not instant messaging or email, it tends to be mindless meetings. And I say mindless because so many complain about how meetings are not adding value to their day, and they can feel their productivity disappearing down a black hole. Well, artists actually have a very similar issue. And I'm going to show you a day in the life of a typical artist. Here we go, the artist's day, reality. And what happens is they think that they're going to start their day at 9 a.m. And, I'll start with a pretty ease into the day. We'll start with a coffee and maybe check social media. And social media is very important to artists because that's often where you're displaying your work, and because you work alone, it's how you're engaging with people online, so you're not lonely. And so you're selling your stuff, you're trying to engage with others to get them interested. But before you know it, 10 o'clock's arrived. And so that whole first hour has disappeared down the social media black hole. And might as well have another coffee, why not? 10:30 rolls around, it's time for art. Now we're going to do it, right? We're all ready to go. So we start our art, and then half an hour later, someone turns up at our door, because typically an artist is working from home. They might have a studio out the back, but they're typically working from home. And because we're social and we're working from home, what happens is our friends and family tend to think, well, if you're working from home, you're always available. You're not really working, are you? You're only doing art anyway. So they come round and you might as well put the jug on again and have another drink. And then before you know it, it's midday. Now you can either invite them to stay for lunch or send them packing. And meanwhile, there was an interesting post that you'd started in the morning. You better go back and check whether anyone's been doing any comments on it. After all, social media is a type of productivity, right? Anyway, we hit 1 o'clock. Oh, goodness, we've only done half an hour painting for the whole day. We're really going to focus now, and you do. You really do. Between 1 and 3, you crack on, and you get 2.5 hours art done. And then before you know it, suddenly it's 3 o'clock, and there's another social activity. It could be picking the kids up from school, or they're arriving back from school, or friends brought their kids around from school, and, might as well just have another drink anyway. And if it's a social thing, people seldom come for just 5-10 minutes. Before you know it, it's 3:30, where's my day going? I better get back to my art. But it's 4 o'clock before they leave. And it does feel like suddenly in our whole day, there's a black hole of time. Where has it gone? Well, oddly enough, the most time has gone into social media, because you finish that 4 to 5, you might as well go back and log on and, carry on chatting with people there. So this might not be your art day, but it represents a sort of typical day where interruptions happen. All that was achieved was 2.5 hours of actual output on art. And you can squeeze that so it becomes 3 hours. But typically 3 hours is about it. On a really good day, you might crank out 4 hours. And I'd like to introduce you to a pastel artist who probably was doing 4 hours a day. I don't know if he's still alive, but he had a fantastic video on his life as an artist. His name's Bob Richardson, and I'll leave a link to his video below. And but here's a little clip about his working day as an artist.
I still work a strict routine of 9 till 4 or 9 till 4, and then after the 4 o'clock I go to the gym or for a swim. But I still have a strict discipline, and I think you've got to succeed in anything, you've got to work. Although I love my work, it's hard to get 60 or 70 pictures together, and I've been doing it for 40 years. It's a lot of work.
Okay, so Bob was really self-disciplined, and even though he had what some would view as a pretty light day, 9 to 4, he knew what he could accomplish in that time, and he cracked on and did it, and he probably was doing 4 to 4.5 hours of actual output per day, and he viewed it as his full-time job, and he just stuck to it. But for many of us, it's not a full-time job, because we've got another job to supplement our art sales. And I've been working on a spreadsheet that, for myself, for my own purposes, is designed to try and help me see how much I can make as an artist for a living. And first I started with output. How much can I produce per annum? So I'll just walk you through this little workbook, because I think you'll find it useful for how to work out for yourself how much you produce per annum. And you've got to start first of all with, well, how many weeks do you have available for your art? And for me, it's 40 weeks. It might actually be a little less per year, but I aim for 40 weeks available for art. And what tends to mess that up is life. All right, so we've all got things to do. We get sick. We go away on holiday. A family comes to us for holiday. You've got other activities you're doing. You're getting ready for exhibitions and shows, and so there's a whole lot of extra work you have to do that is not art related. Or for myself, after I've finished a quite a complicated and challenging piece of art, I feel a little burnt out, and sometimes it can take a week to sort of refuel the creative juices, so that's a bit of a drag. Anyway, we've got 40 weeks. I've suggested 40 weeks is a pretty acceptable and reasonable amount of weeks available for art. And then art days per week. Well, for me it's 3, because I run a consulting business, and I've got that to do, and then what I have available for art as well. It's 3 days a week. I could do the weekends, and sometimes I do, but life sort of fills up spaces. Now, if I put in my average art hours of 3 hours a day, then that gives me 9 hours per week for art. And if I times that 9 by 40, I'll come to 360 hours available for art. I break my art into 3 types of categories: large, medium, small. My large is really just how long it takes me to do it. It's a complicated painting, like the ones behind me, where there's a lot of cloth folds or difficult fingers to paint. And they will take me about 35 to 40 hours to paint. Then after that, I'll do a pan pastel painting. Well, they're much more energetic and easy to do, and they'll only take me about 16 hours to do. And then the small ones, they're about 4 to 8 hours, depending on how complicated I'm going to do them. And you'll probably have something similar. You'll have your challenging work and your much simpler work. Now, I just divide 360 by how long it takes me to do a painting. In this case, I could do 90 paintings for my 360 hours. And you think, well, why wouldn't you do that? Why wouldn't you just bang out 90 simple paintings? And some artists do. They picked a simple topic. They can repeat it. There's some colour changes. There might be some slight changes in the composition, but they're able to bang out those quickies. For me, that's soul destroying. That's not why I'm in art. I want to challenge myself to grow as an artist. So I want to do those big ones. But I know that per year, I'll probably only do about 5 or 6 of them. And when I've finished one of those, I will switch to a smaller one, a more simpler one, and that's I'll probably get about 14 of those done, which leaves the rest for my pan pastels. So that's 27 paintings for the year. And you might go, oh, that's not very much. I didn't think so either. And but I checked that contemporaryartissue.com site, and they were giving out a figure of an average of 25 paintings per year. So I'm right in the ballpark. Now, how can I improve my productivity? Well, I know it's not going to be my average hours per day. I've tried that, it doesn't work. So art is quite a focus thing for me, and I can only focus for so long. I can sometimes increase my art days per week, but I find that on average, I'm quite right with my 3 days per week. So really for me, what I need to do to improve my productivity is exactly what I used to do in business and helping people improve their productivity. Get good, all right? Get good. So if you can remove the rework, if you can remove all the wasted processes that you do, then you start, the time you do have, you just produce more. It's a natural thing. You will produce more the better you get. So I need to replace my 35. I need to get that down to maybe 25, and then suddenly my output goes up. But right now I'm just a slow painter, and it is what it is. So productivity, your output. You've got to know what your output is. And don't imagine that going full-time is going to increase your output, because full-time workers are not putting in 6 hours of output per day. A part-timer can produce just as much output as a full-time worker. And for you, you're going to rely, if you're an artist, you're going to be relying on your output. That's what you've got available for sale. That's what you're going to use for your reproductions as well, for prints. So you've got to know, well, how much can you produce before you can work out how much money can you make per annum. And I'll be doing another video on, well, how much do I think I can make per annum from 27 paintings per year. So if you're interested in art as a business, then please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, and there'll be another video coming along soon about how to price art and how not to sell your art so it's at a loss, because often we actually kid ourselves and we think, oh, I did quite well at that painting, but surprisingly we're doing it at a very, very low rate, and probably doing it at a loss. So thanks so much for watching this particular episode. I hope to see you again in another. Hooray!